What's good, everybody? This is Twine, the Divine Liberty of the Movement Boxing Podcast. Welcome to another show. I'm rocking solo today, so I just want to give a shout out to my partners in crime who can't make it today due to other reasons. Busy work week, so people definitely have scheduling conflicts during the week. We normally do the show on Sunday nights, so bear with us. But I want to give a shout out to 2K, the prodigy of boxing, Big Cooler, Colossal Boxing Talk, Bo and Bernard, also the Truth and Facts about boxing. Before we get started, pretty much our first topic we're going to start out with today is going to be we had a title fight over the past weekend at Cruiserweight, part of the World Boxing Super Series. It was Mairis Briedis defending his title against Mike Perez. And pretty much, there was a lot of, I won't say controversy, but it was a pretty brutal fight for people to watch from what I ascertained. And it wasn't as bad to me as other people put out there. A lot of ugly stuff, clinching and holding, I guess you could say. But, I consider it tactical. And it was something I felt Perez should have adjusted to in the fight. Although there was a point Dmitry Bivol in a lot of rounds for holding or for the clinching, he still pretty much dominated the fight. Perez had his moments in there, but for the most part, Briedis showed he was able to adapt and be more versatile, which I think is going to carry over into his next fight, which is a semifinal unification with Alexander Usyk, which I think is ultimately the best fight of the tournament. Due to the pairings, they can't meet in the finals, which I thought would have been best. But to me, this is a fight that I really wanted to see. I think Briedis has the skill set to actually test Usyk more than anybody has so far in his career. Usyk hasn't necessarily looked that great in his last couple of fights, even knocking out Marco Huck recently in the debut or in the first fight of the World Boxing Super Series. Won by KO, but still left something in the tank. I guess people expected more out of him, especially against the aging Marco Huck. Other than that, I guess we'll go into our next segment, which has a lot to do with the 175 division in the aftermath of Andre Ward vacating his title. We have Dmitry Bivol, the up-and-comer from the Eastern Euro bloc. He was the mandatory for Bivol, who actually vacated the belt recently. So that's why he'll be fighting Trent Broadhurst in Monaco in November, on November 4th for the WBA 175 regular title, which is now vacant. A lot of questions about why, I guess, Bivol vacated his title. Still Bivol can be considered a prospect. He's only had 11 or 12 fights, but people think the world of him. He's the next in line for what people say. Even I've been hearing more reviews or raves about him recently than even Alexander Gavacic. So, those two guys both barely have 10 fights in their careers and are up-and-comers, but I could definitely understand Ward retiring. He had nothing to gain by fighting either two of those guys. Only fight I felt that was there for him was Adonis Stevenson. So, as far as this fight, I expect Dmitry Bivol to pick up his first title and actually be elevated to super champ, which I think is the reason why Bivol made a bad decision in actually vacating the title, because he actually could have been elevated to super champ now that Andre Ward is vacated. So, we'll keep our eyes on that one. Remember, November 4th, you'll be able to see that one. Hopefully, I think it'll be broadcast on HBO or something, or ESPN. We'll see. I think Bivol is actually with Main Events, so it should be on HBO most likely. That said, it's going to carry over into another part of the 175 division. It's a lot going on in that division right now. Like I was saying, Andre Ward vacated his belts or retired, so we'll see a lot of movement going on in that division over the next couple months, which will lead to another one of his vacated titles being contested for. Arthur Beterbiev will be making his long-awaited return, fighting on the top-ranked card. And this fight was actually approved for the vacant IBF title. So I actually expect him to pick up his first belt as well. As far as his opponent, I don't know much about his opponent, but, I felt Beterbiev was ultimately one of the better 175-pounders. He's been kind of sidetracked by promotional issues and injuries over the last year or so. But, he definitely started out on the fast track, early on, with wins over, Gabriel Campillo, Tavares Cloud. He had some pretty impressive wins. And, he just got a little bit inactive due to the injuries. And, he recently had some disputes with Jean-Michel, GYM Promotions out in Canada. So I guess he's trying to sue to get out of that. There should be a decision on that pretty soon. But for the time being, he's fighting on the top-ranked card, and I'm not quite sure if he's still affiliated with Al Heyman or not. I believe he is. He's still managed by him or advised by him. But as far as his opponent, he'll be facing Enrico Koelling, 23-1. He's been in there against, some mediocre competition for the most part. Fought a lot of his fights overseas in Germany. So not a lot known about him. This would be his big premiere over in the States. I believe the title fight is in Fresno, California, surprisingly. Not necessarily a boxing town and a city you would expect, a title fight. But nevertheless, man, congratulations to Arthur. I expect him to pull out this one and gain his first world title. And I'm actually expecting further things from him, especially if this division with GYM and he gets signed with the top rank. Expect him to fight Gavacic, one of those guys over there at top rank, which would be a pretty good fight as well. I actually think Beterbiev is probably one of the top 3 guys in the division, even when Andre Ward was still there. Top 3 or 4. Right now, you could say top 3, Kovalev, Adonis, and Beterbiev, whatever order you want to rank them. So Beterbiev is definitely one of the better talents. I think he's gotten a whole lot better, but, just been inactive. So we'll go to our next topic of the night, which has been pretty much in a lot of heat drawn over the last, the past week. Deontay Wilder's fight against Luis Ortiz, King Kong Ortiz, is up in the air right now. It's pretty crazy, man. Luis Ortiz tested positive for two supplements that are banned on the PED list. The reason they're banned, they're considered diuretics, which I guess are used to possibly mask PEDs. But this is a pretty interesting situation. Luis Ortiz said he was prescribed a blood pressure medication, which is also surprising considering he's a pro boxer. So there's a lot of speculation there as to how he was even approved or medically approved to fight with high blood pressure, or how he's training if it's that bad to where he needs to take medication for it. So it's a pretty interesting thing. The thing is, VADA, the testing agency that does the random drug testing for the WBC, they allow you to fill out everything you're taking medication-wise, supplements, anything your regimen. And Luis Ortiz's team dropped the ball on this one, man. They didn't completely fill it out accurately, left off some stuff. So now it left room open for speculation, which I think, is really all on his team, especially considering his past and testing Fernandrolone in the past, and being suspended. So, there's definitely a history there that leaves a lot to question. Ortiz was on the record saying, do a hair sample on me and I'll approve. I'm not trying to, jig the system, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't trying to flush the system of PEDs. So the WBC hasn't made a ruling yet. With only a couple of weeks left to the bout. I personally suspect that it would be canceled. I just don't see it continuing. I know both guys are in camp. Deontay Wilder is saying, he'll fight him still regardless. So it'll be interesting to see what the WBC's ruling is. But I personally think, just to be on the safe side, it's better to cancel it, even though this was going to be the first major test for Deontay. It was a fight that a lot of people were looking forward to in the heavyweight division, especially me. It was the next step in unification, between Anthony Joshua, who's fighting Kubrat Pulev over in, I believe, Belfast in a couple weeks. Actually, the week after Deontay Wilder and Luis Ortiz were scheduled to fight. He's scheduled to fight Pulev, but I mean, you kind of got to be on the safe side. You don't want guys going in there with advantages or even having a suspicion that it's there, especially with a guy that's tested dirty in the past. So I think the WBC needs to use, to use his best judgment on this one. I feel like Ortiz's team dropped the ball and shouldn't really be giving breaks. If it was a misunderstanding, to me, I don't think it's a misunderstanding. This guy has been in the WBC clean program for a while, had to go through rigorous testing. So he should know the ins and outs of what's going on as far as the testing. As far as the high blood pressure, with it being was it diagnosed recently? Something else that needs to be brought up, but I'm pretty sure the WBC is looking at all that in this investigation. Right now, if the fight is canceled, the card will still go on, fortunately. A very exciting undercard. Sean Porter going against Adrian Granados, which was actually something just added last week. A lot of people are dogging the fight because of Granados is a 140 guy. Granados is a hard fighter, period. So to me, I like the fight. He brings it. You look at his losses, they're all against top caliber guys. Broner, Felix Diaz, he upset Amir Imam, so this guy, he's a dog in there. Sean Porter may be a little bit too strong for him at 147, so we'll see. There's definitely going to be a brutal war in there. I don't expect it to go the distance. I'll definitely give Sean Porter the edge right now just because of size, and it's the size of the dog in the fight, not necessarily the size of the person. So you definitely know what Sean Porter brings when he comes to the ring. It's looking like Bermane Stiverne was supposedly going against Dominic Breazeale on the undercard. He's actually the WBC mandatory that took step-aside money in order to allow Deontay Wilder and Luis Ortiz fight. So he's supposed to be facing Dominic Breazeale, but if the Luis Ortiz fight is canceled, he might actually be elevated to fight the mandatory, which is something that's been going on in the news, that he may actually be added to the main event against Deontay Wilder. I'm not quite sure else who they could get on this later notice, especially if you want to expect the top 10 guy. No guy in the top 10 is going to take this kind of fight on 4 weeks notice. So, you can scratch that out now. If I had to put my finger on it, I say it'd be somebody like maybe a Charles Martin, not Charles Martin, but a Christian Hammer, that's slightly outside the top 10. I've been hearing other rumors that it might be Amir Mansour. I actually would like that fight. Amir Mansour brings it. He's one of my, he's kind of, I won't say underrated, but he's a little bit overlooked. I like him at heavyweight. He's on the older side, but he comes to fight. He's had some bad luck in there. He was putting it on Dominic Breazeale before, he lacerated his tongue in the fight, which would have put him in position to possibly have a fight with Deontay Wilder previously. So, I would love to see Amir Mansour in there. I know he's definitely going to bring the best out of Deontay. He's a pressure fighter, and he definitely loves to throw big bombs in there. So, you know, with Deontay's big right hand, somebody would definitely go down or get stretched. Also on that undercard, though, for the Deontay Wilder card, you have Sergey Lipinets going against Kondo for the vacant IBF title, 140 pound title that was vacated by Terrence Crawford, who's expected to be moving to 147 in his next fight. And that's it. We'll wait to see what's going to happen with this ruling, and you know, keep you guys informed on any updates as far as that card in upcoming weeks. We kind of got into this on one of our shows last week, Night at the Round Table, so I just want to touch on it a little bit. Demetrius Andrade to be fighting Alantez spots on HBO, and he's actually something I wanted to add that I didn't talk about originally was he'll be fighting this fight at 160. Demetrius had an interesting quote saying he wants to prove he's the best at 160 pounds, so I guess his 154 pound title, I haven't heard anything about him vacating, so I'm not quite sure if this is a permanent move for him. He's definitely not clamoring for the Arislan De Lara fight anymore. Arislan De Lara is not talking about him in the media anymore, so that fight seems like it's dead in the water. And you know, there's not many guys at 154 for Demetrius Andrade to fight on HBO. The majority of the talent is signed with Al Heyman, you know, which you know, they usually do most of their bouts on the Showtime brand, CBS brand. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I think this move will be actually a permanent move to 160, considering HBO has a lot more talent at 160 than the PBC brand. So just wanted to throw that out there, that he'll be fighting at 160 in this fight, non-title fight. Not sure what his status with 154 is, but just judging from his quote saying that he wants to prove he's the best at 160, kind of makes it seem like this is a permanent move for him. Who knows with his inactivity if he's able to even to make 154 with that tall frame of his. You know, he's a pretty big 154 pounder as far as height and you know, his body build. So it may have been a struggle for him to get to 160. That said, I'll go ahead and get into our next topic for tonight, which will actually be pretty interesting. Carl Frampton last week signed with Frank Warren over in the UK as his promoter, and he'll be making his debut on November 18th in Belfast as well. Pretty good card. You look at the card from top to bottom, it's actually very good. Not sure Carl Frampton will be going. It's not going to be a big name opponent. You know, he is the main event over there, but if you look at the undercard, there's some good fighters on there. The fight I'm actually most looking forward to is Jamie Conlan taking on Jerwin Ancajas for his IBF Super Flyweight title. I'm not sure if too many of you guys are familiar with Jerwin Ancajas. He was recently on the Manny Pacquiao, Jeff Horn undercard. Excuse me. And you know, if you saw him, he made it look pretty easy in there. He's a real good fighter. I actually like him. But you know, Colin's a very good fighter as well. Man, you know, both got one loss on their record. Actually, Colin is undefeated, but Ancajas only has one loss on his record, which was early on in his career over in the Philippines. But you know, he's been winning pretty much everything by knockout since then. In the division, very solid fighter. You know, he beat Miguel Arroyo, who's actually a very, very good fighter at the division as well. He actually gave Chocolatito a very tough fight. But right now I'm kind of 50-50 on this one. The fight will be in Belfast, so I don't know if there's going to be any kind of judging favoritism. But I definitely think Conlan has a style that could give Ancajas, you know, make Ancajas think a little bit. But Ancajas, if you saw him on the Jeff Horn undercard, he's definitely the real deal. Definitely one of the better super flyweights still down there, still down in the division. There's a lot going on in that super flyweight division. We just had the super fly card on HBO a couple weeks back. There was actually some talks about Ancajas going against Naoya Inoue before this was actually announced last week. Ancajas is probably one of the guys with one of the lesser known names, you know, because you got guys like Carlos Cuadras, Chocolatito, you know, and Corcel Gallo, you know, Juan Francisco Estrada, who garnered most of the attention at that weight division. But Ancajas definitely a very skilled fighter with big power. So, I mean, going into that fight, right now I have it even, but Conlan has a very active and busy pace, you know, which is why he has the alias of the Mexican. It's pretty crazy coming from Ireland, but that's actually his nickname, and he has a very busy pace. So I think it's going to be a very good, rugged fight, and he'll bring the best out of Ancajas in this one. Also on that undercard would be Zolani Tete, who's what I believe the WBO champion in the division. If I'm not mistaken, I'll double check on that one real quick. But he's actually very good. He's one of the bantamweight champions, the WBO. I thought he was going to fight Omar Narvaez, but he's actually slated to fight somebody else now. It was just announced yesterday that Zolani Tete will be fighting Stiverne Breazeale on that card, so it won't be Omar Narvaez, which I was actually I loved that fight. You know, I would have been more excited for the card if that was the one. It would have been one of the better cards of the year, actually, if that would have been the belt that was made on the undercard. But nevertheless, you get to see Zolani Tete display his skill set, man. He's a very big 118-pounder. He's been rumored to fight Rigo for years, but his team has never pulled the trigger on the fight for, you know, various reasons, you know, feeling he wasn't ready. Personally, I just don't think he wanted that work with Rigo after seeing him fight taller fighters and, you know, seeing him actually lay bigger guys out, you know, or stop them. So, you know, but Tete's definitely one of the better bantamweight champions. There's a lot good underweighted division, you know. So it's definitely a good card. Tete versus Narvaez fight would have made that probably one of the better cards of the year had it going down. But, you know, still a card to be excited for Frampton making his return. I'm not sure if it's at 130 or 126. I believe it would be at 130 if I'm not mistaken. But, you know, we'll see. It's just a stay busy fight. You know, he hasn't fought in a while since Leo Santa Cruz. You know, his last fight was actually canceled because the other fighter got injured. And, of course, Frampton wasn't able to make the weight as well. So we'll pay attention to that one. Like I said, that card is in November. Going into our next topic of the night, we'll be talking about the lightweight division. And it's looking like Feliz Verdejo, who was actually mandatory to fight Terry Flanagan for his WBA lightweight belt over in the UK. He's dropped in the rankings since their fight was canceled, with both of them being injured, which I think is kind of faulty. Flanagan was the one that got injured and had to pull out. There was no rescheduling because Verdejo ended up getting injured himself in training camp, supposedly. And with that said, he's been dropped in the WBO rankings by surprise. Wow, I mean, you just don't know what to say about Verdejo. Can't get right. I believe he's been dropped down to number 6. He's had a bad string of luck, man, between his inactivity, you know, looking like a diminishing skill set or, you know, flaws in his skill set. He recently moved over to Abel Sanchez's camp, which I think was something he needed to do a long time ago because his training just wasn't there. He wasn't growing as a fighter. So he definitely needed that move. With him being a high output fighter, I think Abel Sanchez is actually a good match for him as a trainer. But with that said, he won't be fighting for the WBO title against Terry Flanagan. Who's actually in line now will be Raymundo Beltran, who signed with Top Rank. You know, we've seen him on a tear lately. Has some impressive wins. His most recent loss was against Terrence Crawford, but you know that's not a knock against anybody losing to Terrence Crawford. But I definitely think Raymundo Beltran is definitely capable of beating Terry Flanagan. Very solid match if it's made or when it is made. I'm not sure the status of Flanagan's injury, but so we'll keep our eye out on that one. And that will lead us to our U.O.E.N.O segment, which is a segment we do weekly. Basically, on this segment, we talk about something that happened in history. On this day, we actually got some pretty good ones for today. On this day, October 3rd, 1981, we actually had Alexis Arguello stopping Ray Boom Boom Mancini by knockout in the 14th round. Very impressive, 14th round victory, knockout. Back in the old days, when I won't even say old days, but back when there was a little bit more Iron Man stuff going on as far as, the 15-round fights, the late round TKO, definitely all gladiators back then. But like I said, on this day, October 3rd, 1981 in Atlantic City, he retained his WBC lightweight against Ray Boom Boom Mancini, who was actually fighting for his first world title. But on the flip side, I got another one for you on the same day. But in 1998, somebody fighting for their first world title, who recently retired for the third time, Floyd Mayweather Jr. He stopped the late great veteran Genaro Hernandez by TKO in the 8th round. Man, definitely rest in peace to Genaro Hernandez, one of the best super featherweights out there, of that era. He beat one of my favorite fighters ever in Azuma Nelson. So that's saying a lot. Azuma's a legend and pretty much one of my top 5 favorite fighters of all time. So, and that shows you Genaro Hernandez's skill set. The only 2 guys that ever beat him were Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather Jr. Another interesting note, Floyd Mayweather Jr. paid for Genaro Hernandez's funeral after his passing. I guess I'm not sure how long ago it was. Probably close to a decade ago. It's been some time. But yeah, that was Floyd Mayweather's first title that he won, the WBC super featherweight title in 1998. And of course, we know what was done after that. With that said, I guess we're going to get out of here, man. Or I'll get out of here, quick night. Was able to get through this doing it solo. But definitely want to give a shout out to my fellas again who couldn't make it tonight. You can check them out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Bo and Bernard, their show is called The Truth and Facts About Boxing. So check them out on their YouTube page, Twitter. 2K the Prodigy of Boxing. Also catch him on YouTube. Big Cool, a.k.a. Rocky Sloppy, a.k.a. Jazzy Faye Jr. You can catch him on Colossal Boxing Talk. On Facebook, they got a page as well. Also Twitter. Also, you can catch us pretty much in all of the boxing groups on Facebook. We live boxing. We live, eat, sleep boxing. Die Hard Boxing, TLR. Give a shout out to Eastwick Boxing, Green IQ, and even our own page, the Movement Boxing. So definitely look out for us on there. We're always talking boxing, pretty much 24/7. And if you come up in Eastwick or the Movement, you may get clowned. So you definitely got to have some knowledge to deal with those guys in there. There's no softies in there, no casuals allowed. But with that said, I'm trying to Divine Liberty with the Movement Boxing Podcast, and we'll check you next week. Thanks for listening.